The official pod is presented by WynnBET. Betting is a team sport. Bet together at WynnBET. Eric Allen here at One Jets Drive on the second floor, joined by Jets defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. Brick, how has everything been this offseason? It's been a crazy one.
It has been. Again, I think this organization has done a phenomenal job of really refining this roster, getting some key acquisitions in free agency, doing an excellent job in the draft, and then the guys that we have here have been high level dedication. Just them showing up as much as they have, and with the correct intent and focus and purpose behind it. So it's an exciting time. Like it feels like we made some strides from the defensive perspective last year, but you can feel the hum of they're just kind of scratching the surface.
What's the difference for you this year approaching your unit? Because last year you made a dramatic jump as far as bottom of the league in a number of metrics, and you knew some of that was going to happen. It was just part of the process. You guys are embracing the youth process. Then in 2022, your defense top 5 across the board in almost every metric.
Yeah, it was, going through that first season, there was a lot of times, and I think it would be everybody's instinct when you're struggling and not playing as well as you'd like, that you change your philosophy, whether it be schematic, technical, whatever the case may be, and in an effort to play better football. We fought that instinct, and I know that sounds counterintuitive, but we said we're not gonna change. We believe in these concepts, whether they be schematic or technical, and we're just gonna get better at what we do, as opposed to changing this and trying to create a quick fix. In doing that, that was the number one reason. I take that back. That's not the number one reason. That was a big reason we took this enormous jump, because this defense, because it's not about smoke and mirrors and a ton of deception. It's more about we're going to outplay you. You may know what we're in, and we don't care. We're just going to out execute you. And so you get a full year under your belt, a lot of reps, a lot of keloids, a lot of scars, a lot of successes, and you started to see the fruits of that labor. And then add the talent that we added, whether it be the free agency or the draft, and the combination of that was, you saw a big jump. And the really cool thing about this group is, there would be a lot of groups out there that would definitely take a deep breath after a year like that, saying we got this. And that is absolutely not the mindset of this group. They believe collectively, from CJ to DJ Reed to every single guy on that defense, that we're just scratching the surface.
Did you expect that kind of jump? I mean, because that was spectacular. I mean, you're talking about a jump that is rarely seen in the NFL nowadays. Yeah,
it's I hoped, as we all would. It was interesting, in spring of last year, as we started to collect these different pieces, Sauce, DJ, across the board. You started to see glimpses of some really cool stuff out there on the grass, doing some stuff that in my experience in this league, maybe better than I'd ever seen. But you're very cautious, and obviously coming off the first year where we didn't play as well, like there was a feeling of, what is this gonna look like? A big part of me believed in what we were doing, but until you do it on Sundays, it's a big question mark. So I hoped, and I saw glimpses in last offseason of major improvement, whether it be personnel based or just getting better at what we do. But I don't know if I would have said we could have been a top 5 defense that quickly.
Right.
So to have done that, it's a huge testament to the players that we got and the coaches that we have on the staff.
What's the next step in the process now? As you guys did take that jump, and now teams are going to scout the Jets a lot differently. with that personnel that you guys put on the field last year, whether that be the Sauce Gardners of the world or DJ Reed, like you mentioned before. Carl Lawson, I think that kind of goes under the radar as far as him coming back from injury, because
Sure.
that was really the first year that you guys had Lawson out there on the field. I mean, those guys, just those three guys alone, huge difference makers.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And not to, like, the Carl Lawson conversation is an exciting one for me because when you do tear your Achilles, that next year you're a shadow of yourself. And I'm not saying he was a shadow of himself, but he definitely wasn't the Carl Lawson that Carl Lawson wanted to be. And I'm so excited to get him back and to see him finally feeling really strong and explosive and comfortable and without pain, so he's going to take a huge jump. Just, I think as a group, we want to be a championship defense, and a championship defense, obviously you have to play very consistent football in every phase, but you got to get the ball.
Yeah.
Those are the defenses that win games, win championships, and go to the next space. That's where we need to make an enormous jump. And that's not just the guys in the back end picking the ball off. That's applying pressure. That's me calling the correct calls, putting guys in position to be successful. It's all of that. So that's the next component. I'm not going to get obviously we're very cognizant of the statistics and analytics of everything that we do because they're markers that really can indicate success or failure or places that need improvement. But the biggest one that I'm looking for this season is the turnovers, having the ability to really change games and win games.
What's the evolution of that happening? How does that happen? Because it's not like you and your staff haven't stressed that. I
Right.
mean, that's one of the things, like you talk to guys around the building, they say, they lead off the meetings talking about takeaways.
Yep. It's, and we do. Can we do it better? Yes, absolutely we can do it better. And we'll continue to find ways to keep that at the forefront of the conversation. But a lot of that is just getting better at what we do. When the pass rush improves and we continue to get better at that and we affect quarterbacks at a higher level, that's when picks happen. When we create, different coverage wrinkles, or we just get better at what we do from a coverage perspective, that's where turnovers happen. The emphasis has always been to be a physical defense. Like, we want violence to be one of those first words that you speak about when you talk about the Jets defense. And there's an element of violence getting the ball off people. So it's a little bit all those things, but it's something that we collectively, players and coaches alike, we know that's the next thing that we have to get done here. Have to.
We saw it with Richard Sherman in his career, as far as him being a technician early on, and then the ball started coming to him.
Yep.
He started grabbing it more and more. They're not the same player, but we've seen comparisons between Sauce Gardner and Richard Sherman just because of the body type,
Yep.
the competitive nature of the guys.
Yep.
Do you think that it's bound to happen? That's the next thing that's going to happen with Gardner. He had 2 interceptions last year, but was phenomenal as far as leading the league in PDs. And then he checked all those boxes, right? He was a Pro Bowler, his first team All-Pro, and then Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. That's the next step for him, and he would tell you the same. I was fortunate enough to be with Richard as a rookie and his first and second year in the NFL, to see him, and there are a million comparisons.
Really?
Yeah, not just the obvious that they're both long, rangy guys, good athletes, good speed, all those things. It's the mindset, it's the approach, it's the process that they're both committed to. Like, there's no part of Richard Sherman as a rookie that you would have said he looks like a rookie. Like, the way he was at a walkthrough, getting angry because the stem of the receiver was wrong, or the alignment was incorrect, or whatever. His level of detail was that of a 10-plus year vet. Sauce has that same makeup. He has this unbelievable mentality and approach, and it's so consistent, especially for a younger guy. Every walkthrough you can hear him talking, and it's not just the funny talk that we enjoy.
Right.
That as well, and he gets under people's skin, and that's part of his game. But just the talking, as far as alerting the routes, identifying the formations, gathering the pre-snap indicators, and then verbalizing that to his teammates. It's just different, because corners innately are quiet.
Yeah.
typically, and they're on their island, and they handle their own. Where he's not built that way. He's built in a way that he wants to elevate everybody's game, and if he sees something, he says something, and he's different in that way. So for him and Richard Sherman to be compared, there's a lot of comparisons in that way. Now, the movement, the athletes, they're a little different, you know. But yeah, like Richard Sherman, was he a great corner? Absolutely, and he got the ball at a high level, and he's one of the best to ever do it. But saying that, like Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett,
Yep.
I mean that
It's all
list,
tied together.
yeah, that list goes on and on as far as the D linemen that they had there at the time, and that created that environment where quarterbacks were not comfortable, you know, and bad balls were thrown. And then there's also an element of Aaron Rodgers here that's real, and Aaron historically. He puts a lot of points on the board.
Yes, he does.
To put it plainly. But and when that happens, we'll get more opportunities because guys will have to push the ball on us a little bit more and try to be more aggressive. Whereas there was times last year, you know, it's just the truth of it, that people were more conservative against us at times.
Yeah, especially late in the season.
Yep.
Did you expect that chip from Sauce coming out? He's drafted number 4 overall, like we're talking about him and Sherman. Sherman was a late-round pick. You guys found him late in the draft.
Yep.
One of the best picks of the last 25 years.
Absolutely.
Did you anticipate Sauce coming in and being as hungry as he was?
I got that feeling from him. I remember in the pre-draft process, obviously do the interviews, but we took him out to dinner. My youngest son was there, Jason, and I remember leaving that dinner and how blown away Jace was of how engaged he was and how many questions he asked and how intuitive he was and how, like, there's just a different, he's different in that way, you know, whereas, you know, there's a lot of really good players in this league that are very, they keep everybody kind of at bay.
Yeah.
And Sauce wasn't that at all. I felt something different about him that night, and it was so obvious that he had a different mindset regarding everything. Even his interactions were different, and so to say that I would have known exactly what that would have looked like, you know, Monday through Saturday as far as the process of getting ready for a game, I would have liked to say that I knew it was going to look like that. But I think until you get your hands on a guy, you don't know, and. But it didn't take long for us to realize what he is all about. Like,
We just had Tony Oden up here, and T.O.
Yep.
talked about that dinner, is that you could tell this is a different kind of player, but
Yep.
he was a different kind of person as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's part of his secret sauce, you know. Like he has rare ability, rare size, rare speed, rare transitional stuff, rare instinct, all of that. But he has rare work ethic too, which people don't see.
Jets fans, we're in our final push and the clock is ticking. WynnBET is giving you a golden opportunity to win VIP prizes for the 2023 season. The WynnBET Green Room is the most exclusive space at the stadium with all-inclusive food and beverage, lower-level seats, and appearances by Jets legends and celebrities. New Jersey customers, all you need to do is wager at least $100 on WynnBET Sportsbook or Casino. For New York customers, all you need to do is wager at least $100 on WynnBET's Sportsbook. The best part? You get an entry for every $100 you wager.
Yeah. You always talk about coverage being tied to what happens up front. I think people externally said, Will McDonald in the first round, what are the Jets doing? Can you talk about, we're going to get to the Rodgers dynamic, but what you have on the edge right now? We just talked about Carl Lawson. You got John Franklin Myers. You have Will McDonald, who enters the equation. You have Bryce Huff.
You got Jermaine.
Yeah. You got Jermaine, another first-round pick.
Right.
And I know you guys like Bradley and I as well. I mean, as far as, can you talk about, and that's first-round picks each of the last 2 years,
Yep.
as far as the edge is concerned. Can you talk about the strength and numbers and what potentially you can do with this group and why Will McDonald made sense for you guys?
Yeah, it was 2016, and I was in Atlanta, and I know everybody saw the game, and it's one of my major keywords of my life, let alone my football life, was us losing that Super Bowl, and everybody looks at 28-3, like, how did you not win, and we ran out of gas a little bit, we had some really good defensive linemen, we really did, but maybe not necessarily the depth to really finish that game and put the nails in the coffin. And great defenses, they always start up front, and great finishing defenses absolutely start up front. And that's what we're assembling here. We're assembling a group that the first, second, and third wave is going to be a problem for you. And when we get there, and I think that we're getting close, we will not only win games on defense, but we will finish games the way we want to, and we'll win championships because of that defensive line. And that's the reason that it is such a priority here. And it's a priority for all the really good teams in this league. I know it's an old saying, but games are won up front. And I believe that, and I think the test of time believes that, and we're getting close.
How good can this group of Deion's be? Because not only did you land Jermaine Johnson in the draft last year, but you commented about the progress of Michael Clemens because he came in the fourth round as well.
Oh, yeah.
You come back this year and you get Will McDonald. Bryce Huff, as far as his pass rush production, from a numbers perspective, I mean, his get off is
elite.
Yes. And then we talked about Lawson. You think Lawson's probably going to be better this year than what we saw last year. And then Franklin Myers, he's got the ability to shift inside for you guys. And Bart Scott always talks about this with me. You guys can have some kind of NASCAR package as far as pass rushing situations.
Absolutely. And what's really cool about the group is they're so each guy is so unique and has such a different brand of football. You got our new guy, Will, who is as bendy and long and as twitched up as it gets, and he's going to make guys miss, and he's going to burn the corner, and he's going to do some really cool stuff. You already said Bryce has this just elite get off, and he can embarrass you by just outrunning you. You got Jermaine, who I really feel like he's coming into his own as far as really developing his pass rush. But what makes him unique is he has the speed. His pass rush is getting refined, but he has different power than those other guys, and he can really put you on skates. John Franklin Myers is, his probably his greatest value to us is his ability to play inside and outside, so that's huge, and he does both at a very high level. I think Michael Clemens will be in that similar mold. I think we'll be able to utilize him in that way too, where he can be a devastating edge setter in the run game for a second down, and at times reduce inside and go pick on some guards. And then Carl is just this, he's this technician. Just he people talk about being obsessed with this game. Well, he demonstrates it every single day. His obsession is real, and it's I think we're all going to see what he's been working on this year. I saw him yesterday, and we sat down and had lunch, and he's so excited about just where he's at, especially physically. Because
I saw some social media clips.
Yeah, it's so funny. He was training with Paris Johnson, the offensive lineman that went first, or
it went to
seventh,
sixth. I think maybe to Arizona, right?
They were top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Well, he was training with him in the pre-draft process. And if you know Carl's a little weird in a really cool way, but he's not real cognizant of all the social media. He's not real cognizant of all the media hype. He kind of stays in his own little world, and which is one of the things I love about him. He's not as affected by all the noise because of that. So he had no idea who this Paris Johnson was. He just thought he was, maybe a mid-round draft pick, and he showed me the tape, and Paris got a taste of the NFL before he got to the NFL.
Did he?
Yeah, it was a clinic, and to think that's, he's still 2-3 months away from our season starting, and where he's at physically, especially compared to the version of Carl that we saw last year was still kind of battling back from the injury. I'm so excited for him. And there's no human that deserves to have success more than him. Just his work ethic and his approach and his mindset. And plus, he's a good teammate and he's a good man.
What do you think about the third linebacker spot? C.J. Mosley, man, he's been so good for you guys.
Heck yeah.
If people slept on him after being out of football for a little bit, I mean, he's proved his worth. Pro Bowler last season,
Yep.
the Mike linebacker. He's the heart of your defense.
Absolutely.
You re-signed Quincy Williams before free agency starts, so we keep him off the market. We saw him really develop, a former waiver
Yep.
claim who's really found a home in this defense. Such a violent striker.
Yep.
And he also is so explosive. How do you see this third linebacker position shaking out? Jamie Sherwood
Right.
here, and then you guys also draft Zaire Barnes. I
Yep.
know on day 3, you guys like his potential a lot, and Hamza Nasruddin returns.
Right.
What do you think about the group?
Yeah. First of all, the top 2 guys are, in my opinion, they should be in the conversation as one of the top linebacker groups in the NFL. CJ's awareness, his toughness, his consistency, his ability to run this defense. We put a lot on his table, and he excels in that role. So just an amazing man, too, and teammate, just as I spoke about Carl. And then Quincy is just this so unique athlete. Like, he has wide receiver speed.
Yeah.
And he's got defensive line explosion and violence. He's such a rare combination of all these things. And now, after really getting to be put on repeat and rather learn a lot of stuff, we just asked him to learn a few things. And you're starting to see him master these few things now. And the player and the athlete is starting to get, you're starting to see all his physical stuff now that he's starting to really get the game up top. And then this third linebacker position, I'm excited about. I know there's some angst and there's some outward, people are a little nervous about who's going to man that position, but I really believe we got 4 or 5 candidates on this team.
Yeah.
So those guys are going to compete their butts off, and through that competition, someone will rise and someone will become the man. We have great faith in all of them too. So, Jamian could be that guy, and if he is, we got a great third linebacker. Like you said, Zaire could be that guy. Hamza could be that guy. I wouldn't count out Chaz Surratt.
Yeah.
And then, the UDFAs that we just most recently got, the 3 of them, like, they have some really interesting athletic stuff to them and potential. So there's going to be a dogfight. There's 4 or 5 dogs and there's 1 bone, and we're going to get a good third linebacker because of the competition.
What do people don't know about Michael Carter II? Because rightfully so, Sauce and DJ Reed get a lot of credit because they're one of the top cornerback
Yep.
tandems, if not the best cornerback tandem in the National Football League. And, I think it was great for DJ just from a personal perspective, from an individual perspective, and he's the ultimate team guy. But he was able to come from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I think that now when people think about cornerbacks, they know DJ Reed. People in the league knew about DJ Reed, about what he was doing out there with San Francisco and Seattle. But I think now people elsewhere know what the story is with DJ. But what about Michael Carter II and the important role that he plays on your defense?
Even before I get to Michael, you're right about DJ, and DJ is another guy that helped change the culture of this defense because he strains, especially in practice, at a whole different level. You don't see that anymore from pros. I would say that I think Sauce innately is a worker and he's a strainer, but to have a guy like DJ who's done it and been there to demonstrate every day that approach to Sauce, I think that took Sauce to another space.
It's like they're the perfect complement for each other.
They are. Yeah, absolutely. And then Michael Carter is that third component. Like, we put a ton on this man's shoulders. He is essentially a linebacker, a safety, a corner, a Sam, and a nickel all in one. Like, we ask him to fit in a B gap and then take a slot fade of a slot receiver. We ask him to we just put so much on his shoulders. And like, if you get him on something from a mental standpoint, like, it's rare and it's far and in between. He is a guy that's constantly, he is on it. And we are so fortunate to have this guy. Plus, he's another guy with, and I know this sounds redundant, but another great human being and teammate too, and a guy committed to the process, and a guy that is dedicated to this team, this organization, to this defense at the highest level you could ask for. Yeah, he does an amazing job, and he's got a really hard job, because not only do we ask him to do a lot schematically, but when we ask him to play man-to-man, it's hard, because he's on the slot, which is typically one of the hardest places to cover, because the guy can go everywhere. He can go inside, outside.
So much traffic there too.
There's traffic, and there's the route tree is so much bigger for a slot receiver as opposed to a guy on the outside lane, so he's got to cover more routes. But on top of that, you already said it, like, we have one of the best corner tandems in the NFL, in the world for that matter, and that makes it harder on him, because now all of a sudden he becomes a lot of times a target, because when they look at it, sometimes they look at Sauce and they look at DJ, and when Sauce and DJ are really rolling, I'm not throwing out there,
right.
And not to say they'll pick on MC, but with Michael Carter, like I said, that's just a bigger route tree. There's more options. There's more things available for the quarterback and the slot receiver. So then all of a sudden his targets last year went way up, and that's hard living, and he does it at a high level. So he's a huge part of our success.
Quinton Williams, stud, one of the best defensive players, one of the best players in the National Football League. What about the changing landscape at the defensive tackle position? Because Sheldon Rankins did some nice things for you guys here as you built it. Obviously, he signs a nice deal with the Houston Texans. The king of strain, as Robert Saleh liked to call him. Nathan Shepard, he departs in free agency down to New Orleans. What can you tell me about what the middle's going to look like next to Quinton now? And most recently, of course, Al Woods signs here.
Yeah. First of all, again, I'd like to give forever grateful for my time with both those guys. Sheldon Rankins and Nathan Shepard are just amazing human beings, teammates. And like you said, they played at a high level for us, and they're a huge part of our success last year. But there has been a transition, and the guys that we brought in, I'm excited about too. Like, Quinton Jefferson is a guy that, just from afar, I've always been a huge fan of his style. He is a king of strain. He is a guy that he's all gas, no brake. He personifies that and demonstrates that every day, all day. It's just who he is. It's how he operates. So to get him just getting more juice and energy, and guys that love this game and are willing to play it at the highest level and strain like he does consistently. And then Al Woods brings us this big man, this tough man in the middle that you're not going to move. What I'm most excited about Al, and this, I'm more excited for him than even for us. I think the NFL has always kind of looked at him as he's this world-class 3-4 nose, world-class. And it's hard to argue against that. When you watch the tape, he'll get head up on a center, and I don't care if you double him or not, like, you're not moving him. And more times than not, he's moving you. But in this front, as we know, like, we get to go. We get to put things on our terms. We attack. We don't read. We don't catch blocks. It's just not how we operate. So it's not very often that you get a guy that's played as much football as him. I don't know what year this is, his 15th or whatever it is, where he gets to really redefine who he is. Here's a guy that the league perceives as like this 0-3-4 nose. I think the league they're going to see a guy that he can attack, and he's more athletic than people give him credit for, and he's faster and he's more explosive than people give him credit for. So for him to be a part of that is going to be really exciting for me. And then Quinton is just, I've spoke on this a million times over. He is an absolute game wrecker. He's the rare defensive lineman that he'll wreck you in the run game, and he'll wreck you when you want to drop back and pass the ball. Like, typically guys have superpowers one area or the other, and they have a kryptonite in the other area. He doesn't. Like, he checks all the boxes. In my opinion, there is no, like, there are parts of his game that he can prove, as always, for everybody. But as far as his complete skill set, it's unmatched.
I got to
It really
imagine
is.
when you're talking to these guys, when you're talking to a Quentin Jefferson, who, oh, by the way, had a career high in sacks last year with Seattle, when you're talking to an Al Woods, not only are they like, hey, I like this system, I like this culture, and you guys are right there as far as becoming a consistent winner, but I also have an opportunity to play next to a world-class player in Quinton Williams.
Yep.
That's got to be a draw.
Absolutely. I think all those things are a draw for these guys. I think that guys like Al Woods and Quentin Jefferson, not only good football players, but they really appreciate the culture component of a building and a system. And they're both so excited about that part of it as well. And then on top of that, an opportunity to play next to a Quinton Williams is, like, it's going to be rare that you get the slide, that you get the double,
Right.
He's gonna get that more times than not. So there's a part of it where you're gonna have more potentially opportunities than other guys would. And I think the big draw for a lot of these guys is this thought that, the New York Jets, the truth is, haven't been the team that we'd all like to be, from a fan perspective. I know that for sure, that there's been a lot of disappointment, there's been a lot of failure, there's been a lot of falling short. And then to be a part of turning this thing around and righting this ship and creating something special where there wasn't something special, I think there's a major draw to that, especially for older guys that are really trying to cement their legacy in this game. To be part of a turnaround like that, it's special, and it can really define your career.
I've always enjoyed talking to you, but one more topic. Let's end here. Speaking about older guys and defining their legacy, how about Aaron Rodgers being out there on the field? Can you talk about the change dynamic for you guys on the practice field going against him every day and how that can make you all better? And also, what do you sense from him?
Yeah, I know him through other people prior to him getting here, but I didn't know him, and I didn't know him obviously from a teammate or from a coach to player perspective in the same building. So I didn't really know what to expect. As we've all seen, superstars, a lot of times they're recluse. They're, they keep everybody at arm's length, and they're not inclusive. And this guy is the exact opposite of that. It has blown my mind. Not only does he know every teammate already, he knows every trainer. He knows all the equipment guys. He knows the PR guys. He knows the HR guys. He knows the chefs in the kitchen. His level of investment in this organization already is at a higher level, especially from a guy of that stature and status and all that he's done in this league is just, it's so unique. And then, I really believe not only is he going to help us win now and help us do something special today, but he's going to change the course of a lot of these young guys' careers because they get to see this game and the process of getting ready to play this game at a high level. They get to see it demonstrated at a higher level than I've ever seen. And it's one thing for me to sit there and tell a guy, this is what you should be doing, this should be eating, recovering, studying, taking notes, all those things. But for a guy in his 18th year with multiple MVPs and a Super Bowl MVP to operate at the highest level every day, there's nothing more powerful than that. So he's going to be a huge reason why maybe a guy like Sauce puts that yellow jacket on, why a guy like Quinton Williams puts that yellow jacket on, because they thought they were working until they saw this guy work, and they realized there's a different place I can go to.
Why is he such a pain in the ass for a defensive coordinator to prepare for?
He's just not only the brain, like he's going to undress you, and he's going to typically he's going to eat the entire shot clock to figure out what you're playing, and then because he knows this game at such a high level, like he knows where to put the ball versus every coverage. So that's the mental part of things, which is different. And then there's this physical piece where it's like, I'm out here watching him just doing drills. And, people always talk about the platform has to be correct, the footwork has to be perfect, the arm motion has to be this, that, or whatever. And he defies it all. Like we talk about getting him off the spot from a D-line's perspective and affecting quarterbacks in that way. I watch him do these drills. It doesn't matter. Get him off the spot, put him on the spot, give him a good platform, not a good platform. He's still throwing dimes, and so he's a unique mental obstacle from a defensive coordinator's perspective, but he's also a physical mismatch that it's just, he's probably one of the best, if not the best, pure thrower this game has ever seen.
Yeah, and now he's on your team.
Not mad about that.
All right, we're going to have to catch up again in training camp. Make sure you get your time away at the end of this as far as mandatory mini camp, because before you know it, it's all starting, because you guys are one of the first 2 teams who are starting training camps this year, because you will be in the Hall of Fame again.
Yep.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.